I'll go ahead and call the May 20th, 2019 Trophy Club Municipal Utility District Number 1 meeting, regular meeting, to order. I do have a quorum. I have Secretary Treasurer Flynn, Director Chapman, Director Keskaway, and Vice President Rose. President Wilson is not available for the meeting this evening. Citizens' comments. Do I have any citizens with comments this evening?
No.
Thank you. In that case, we'll forego the citizen comments. Consent agenda. All matters listed as consent agenda are considered to be routine by the Board of Directors and will be enacted by one motion. There will not be a separate discussion of these items. If discussion is desired, that item will be removed from the consent agenda and will be considered separately. The items on the consent agenda are the April 2019 check register and the April 23rd, 2019 regular meeting minutes. Would anyone like to remove anything? Nothing heard. I'm open for a motion.
I move to approve consent agenda, including April 2019 check register, April 23rd, 2019 regular meeting minutes.
I second.
Moved by Flynn, seconded by Chapman. All in favor, please signify by raising your hand. Opposed, same sign. Passed unanimously. Regular session. Consider and take appropriate action to adopt Resolution 2019-0520A, authorizing general manager to undertake repairs to fire station roof and expend district funds in conjunction therewith. General manager.
Good evening. This is being brought to the board so that I can have authority to get the leak in the fire truck bay ceiling fixed. Apparently there's been a history of challenges there. This comes into kind of a strange place relative to our new disbursement and procurement policy. I brought it to you this way at Tony's recommendation. There's limitations on the expenditure authority of the general manager. One of them is, the first one listed is the general manager may only approve expenditures for expenses that are included within the district's then current fiscal year budget. Now, this is not in a budget. It's a roof repair. The source of funds would be our reserves for the firehouse. We don't anticipate that it'll be more than $10,000–$12,000. We've got one quote and we're finishing up the other two quotes. But this resolution, as it's pushed forward, allows me to go ahead and do that, so long as it doesn't exceed the $25,000 expenditure limit that I have.
Any discussion from the board? I have a question.
Sir.
Is this covered by insurance?
I do not believe it's covered by insurance, and the way that we effectively, our TML insurance is self-insurance, right?
Okay.
So they look at our claim history over a period of time and adjust our premium to reflect that. So you can almost think of it as being a self-insured financing plan.
Okay. Chair's open for a motion.
I'd like to make a motion that we adopt resolution number 2019-052A, authorizing the general manager to undertake repairs at the fire station roof and expend district funds in connection therewith not to exceed $25,000.
Have a motion, a second?
I'll second.
Okay, motion by Director Chapman, second by Director Castaway. No further discussion. All in favor signify by raising your right hand. Raising a hand, do that. Opposed? Same sign. Motion passes unanimously. Consider and take appropriate, item 3, consider and take appropriate action to elect officers of the Board of Directors. I think the General Manager has something.
Yes, our board president, who could not be with us today, asked that this item and the item on reserve policy be tabled until he can be available.
Okay.
So,
I was actually, Bill, going to make a motion to that effect also, to table it.
Want to take care of this one first and the other one when we get there?
Okay, okay, I make a motion that we table item number 3, consider and take appropriate action to elect officers to the Board of Directors.
Okay, move to table, second.
I second.
Okay, motion by Director Flynn and second by Director Castaway to table item number 3. Any discussion? Okay, all in favor signify by raising your hand. Opposed, same sign. Motion passes unanimously to table. We'll be out of here by 7 o'clock. Consider and take, item 4, consider and take appropriate action to award bid and approve contract number 2019-05-21001 for water line replacement on Sundance Court and Meadowbrook Lane in conjunction with the Town of Trophy Club street replacement as part of fiscal year 2019 capital improvement projects, and authorize the general manager to execute all necessary documents. General manager.
this is a budgeted item for this year, and it's done in conjunction with the town's project improvements in these 2 areas. I think they're not adjacent to each other, right? Sundance
they're
Court is more on the western side of town, over by the Tom Thumb, and Meadowbrook is a place where we've had some other recent activity. But they're both projects that we're doing in conjunction with the town. So separate construction contracts, but the same designer, Teagnall Perkins. They went out for bids, and the bids have come back. What we're asking for approval of is to get those projects underway. And I believe, it's my understanding, they are the last of the street improvements, stormwater, sidewalk improvements that the town has from the previously issued bond.
Okay.
Right, and there's no, if I ask that question, what's the plan for, the next 5 years? We're gonna look at which projects we do jointly with the town. They suggested that would only come up after we got to the next bond issue. So, I believe this pretty much cleans it up. Say again?
Can I add?
Yes.
Okay, so for these projects, we've had them on our books for a couple years. We have paid pretty much for all the engineering on it, except for, maybe a little construction, staking, a little bit of minor stuff afterwards. So we have $150,750 left for these projects. Bids came in at $193,359. So we're gonna have to add some money to these projects.
Remainder's gonna have to come out of reserve. Or out of the budget someplace else.
Yes.
Yes to both.
And
Yes to both. But it does highlight at least one place. The original cost estimate for these projects is 3 years old. Is that right?
Yeah. Yes.
So, it's not been, as we've gone through each successive year's budget, I've touched the last 2. The first one was right when I came to the district. We have not inflated these by, for example, the Engineering News Record Construction Price Index. We've seen evidence on several of our other bids that it's just a hot market for constructing things right now, and we're not getting the prices that we were even 2-3 years ago. So,
okay. Discussion.
I think I missed it, Mike. What was the original bid 3 years ago?
So we had $160,000 originally bid, I think. Pretty sure that's what it was. We paid engineering out of that, and we've got $150,750 left, according to our financial analyst.
So the 193 would be in addition to what we've already spent?
that would be the difference.
No,
The
that's gonna be the
difference, the
total, that's
difference
gonna be
between
the
the-
project cost. So we're still gonna have a little bit of engineering left in there too, but for the project bid price, the project came back at 193, and we didn't.
$40,000 to $50,000 deficit.
Yeah,
Yeah.
about a $45,000 deficit, I'd say.
I have no
mean, it was
further
like Carmen
questions.
saying, when we bid,
Motion?
when we,
Do you have the number there? I've got a number.
I've got it.
Yeah,
got it?
the total number? Okay.
Yeah, I've got it. Okay, I'd like to make a motion that,
May make a motion.
Hmm?
You may
Your
make a
move.
motion. You said you'd like to, I said you may.
thank you. I make a motion to award the bid and approve contract number 2019052001 for water line replacement on Sundance. Am I reading the right? Yeah, Sundance Court and Meadowbrook Lane in conjunction with the Town of Trophy Club street replacement as part of fiscal year 2019 capital improvement projects, and authorize the general manager to execute all necessary documents with a total not to exceed $193,359.
And the name of the company is Jackson Construction Limited.
Yeah, with, Jackson Construction Limited.
I have a motion made by Director Chapman, and do I have a second?
Second?
Motion and second by Director Flynn. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by raising your hand. Opposed, same sign. Motion passes unanimously. Okay, item 5. Consider and take appropriate action to award bid and approve contract number 2019-05-2002 for in-plant water system replacement at wastewater treatment plant as part of fiscal year 2019 capital improvement projects. The General Manager.
Thank you. The wastewater treatment plant is able to take some of the processed water that it uses for a variety of purposes. For example, cleaning the fine screens or spraying down water on the sludge belt press. So in-plant water needs. Even little things like hosing down the basins when they have foam on them for cleanliness purposes. We're able to take that water from the effluent of the plant and recycle it. The in-plant system that runs that has pumps, it has pressure regulators, if you will, and it's something that wore out during the course of the construction project. It was not a subsystem that was part of the original wastewater treatment plant upgrade project, but it is critical to running the wastewater treatment plant itself. Since it's been worn out, we have been using potable water for some of these functions, which is expensive and probably not the right class of water to be used for this type of purpose. Certainly, just even paying the raw water cost on it makes it much more reasonable to use the effluent of the plant for these internal cleaning purposes. We had a vendor give us a cost estimate on what it would cost to replace that system using their, it was their particular instruments and pumps and appurtenances. That number looked like it was going to be north of $80,000. We put $100,000 in the budget, but because of the size of the expenditure, it met the criteria where it had to go out to bid in a newspaper. And, you know, all we had was a cost estimate that didn't say, you know, this type of pump or equal, right? So it could be bid by different folks in the bidding process. It was just one vendor's cost estimate. So I asked under our task order contract half engineers to go and create biddable documents. That was posted in the newspaper for the proper period of time. I think that's
30 days.
a full month. And the bids came back. In fact, I don't even know where we're at on that. We're at
134,722 was low, 167.5 was a high, so we only had 2 bidders partake in even bidding this system.
So we met the criteria for the bidding process. But again, this is a project that's over what we had budgeted for it, and we'll have to deal with that factor when we get to the end of the year and do our budget amendment to include the one that we just talked about. So
So the budget line item, it's out there as 100,000?
Yes, sir.
So this is 34,722 above budget?
Yes.
So I have another question, if I may.
Sure.
Is this something we just missed? Should it have been part of the original bid? It just gives me heartburn that we keep spending money on this plant and more and more and more and more, and help me understand that piece.
I think, I guess I would describe it, if we had confidence in the contractor we were working with there, we probably would have done the system as a change order. We would have brought it forward and said, board, this is a critical subsystem of the plant. It wasn't considered as part of the original designs. They were focused on the membrane processes, the upgrading those aspects of the plant. And at the time, this recycled water subsystem was working okay. During the course of this period of time, it's steadily worsened and it's completely failed at this point, I believe. We might be able to keep it running, but it's basically, there's no pressure regulation in the system right now, so it's running in a defective way. Steve, to your point, I think we probably could have done a better job on the cost estimate, but it would have been us making just a more conservative cost estimate. So, you know, I can't guarantee you that we would have not underestimated it anyway. But I felt like it was important just to meet with the procurement rules, that we go out and we get it designed, so have an engineer do a biddable document, which we did, and bring that back. Would have been nice to have gotten another bid or two that were lower. But we feel like this one will pay for itself in a reasonably short period of time, because we're not paying the raw water cost for all of this source water.
Yeah, I think that's what we kind of have to look at, is we're paying Fort Worth for washing down basically equipment and that stuff.
Right.
And just throwing that money away that could be just part of, you know, what's coming out of the plant as well. So there is an ROI on this. It's not like we're just throwing it away. It will have a return on investment eventually.
I think I could probably say that had it been included in the original plan with the plant, it probably would have been redlined because of the shortage of funds when they got into the bid process versus they had so much bonded, and when they got into the bid process, they were literally cutting things out of the plant. So I suspect that something like this would have been redlined, my opinion personally.
I've had my tour, and it would have probably been messed up when they did it in the first place anyway.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Well, and the only other thing I'll
When I
add
actually saw the
about
plant,
this
it
is
is
this plant water
unbelievable.
system.
Just a minute, please. Mike?
I'll say this plant water system, it's not just a regular plant. I mean, this is something that almost a system like the golf course has is over there to water their greens and stuff. It's not just an everyday system that everybody does all the time. And Ben's how we're a municipality and put it out to bid. It's not like we can just go pick one of those vendors and say, come here and do it. We probably could have got a better price, but Ben's how we had to go through the whole bidding process and everything. And only getting 2 bidders that were even interested in doing it, I think drove the cost up.
I did have a question for Mr. Carmen. Does this include, you know, when we were at the plant, we talked about it would be good to water the grass, and this is all going to be included, you know, like I wouldn't call it an irrigation system, but something similar to where all of our needs out there are taken care
I
of.
think it could, in fact, suit that purpose. For us, the most important thing is not the grass so much as the washing the foam down, or as little things like the circular screens. That's pretty fine mesh screen, and just spraying finished potable water on that seems like just a mismatch of raw material and purpose. So certainly we're going to get to it later, but there's a foam control system that's been identified as a part of the bond issue. In that was a concept where you take a high-pressure jet with a low angle of trajectory, and just put it in and have it constantly spray on the surface of the water. That helps to take any foam that's been created and drive it back into solution. And that's a pretty common feature that you see at many wastewater treatment plants. There was no such spray system installed as a part of the upgrade of the plant. And we feel like it's going to be important because clearly we run into issues with nocardia. Twice a year, typically the worst is going to be in the springtime. So once we get to conclusion of the Weber-Cadagua contract, it's 2 weeks, right? I think that's the standing estimate.
Another 2 weeks.
Another 2 weeks, that we'll go out and get someone to come and install the rest of that piping for the high-pressure jets to go along with the pump that we're going to talk about here in a few minutes.
Further discussion? No further discussion. The board chair's open to a motion.
I move to award and approve contract number 2019-05-2002 for in-plant water system replacement at the wastewater treatment plant as part of fiscal year 2019 capital improvements to Raymar Construction in not to exceed $134,722.
Thank you. I have a motion by Director Flynn,
Second.
second by Director Chapman. Any further discussion? All in favor, please signify by raising your hand. Opposed? Same sign. Motion passes unanimously. Item 6, consider and take appropriate action to authorize acquisition of a 6-inch pump and accessory hoses as the first step in the foam control systems improvement project contemplated in the 2019 bond issuance and as part of the wastewater treatment plant improvement project. General Manager Carmen.
Thank you. With respect to this one, I'm going to start off and then let Mike finish up. When we had our significant foaming issue, which occurred here in the last couple months, I've been reporting on it through the GM report. One of the things that happened was we had foam about ready to spill out of the basin, and the operators chose to stop the flow through the 2 worst membrane trains at the time. Just not knowing what to do, the foam was growing, it was getting ready to come over the edge, and in fact, that did happen. Once we reported that as a sanitary sewer overflow after consulting with TCQ on that. The operators, not certain how to tackle that, just chose to stop the flow through those 2 basins. They let the water sit there for a day or 2. Once you do that with an active basin, you turn the air off to it, it quickly goes septic. And when they went to fire it back up, put some air into it, it caused a significant, intense, but short duration odor incident to occur near the plant. Some of you may have received phone calls
I
regarding
can vouch for that.
some of you may have smelled it directly.
Ergo application of fertilizer. I mean, I don't.
Clearly, we're learning as we go, and anytime you get a new plant, you're trying to get it through the startup phase, work the bugs out, come to an understanding. We found that we were in a position where we had to drain those basins, and our maintenance manuals call for an annual draining of the basins, cleaning them out, doing a physical inspection, doing any repairs that are necessary at the bottom of the basins. It's an annual thing. So on those 2 basins, we effectively drained them. The drain goes back to the head of the plant, so all the water in the box basically recirculates and you run it through the process again. Then you fill it up with raw sewage, but you have to give some bugs to that process to help get it to steady state. So the way that it was done when they were started up the very first time was you took a large pump, a 6-inch pump, you put some raw sewage into those boxes, and then you apply about half of the water from another basin, which brings all of the bacteria population into play and helps get it up to steady state. We were able in it was about 36 to 48 hours, is what I recall, from the start of draining to getting it back up when we have this pump available. Now, we just rented this pump, the one that we're proposing to buy. And that's what was done by the contractor when they were doing the startups as well. In this case, it looks like there's an annual requirement for us to go into each of these basins and do this maintenance routine. Obviously, we'll go in there anytime something else happens that requires us to drain it. But that's what happened, and we were able to get it resolved. The basins came back up, and they didn't exhibit the same foaming issue. Whether it was because of, the way that we went about doing our annual maintenance, or in part because we were just hitting that period of time where the weather conditions were just right for nocardia. Maybe we'd move beyond that. It's not totally clear. Nonetheless, they're all in service right now. They're running well. We did have an opportunity to do the external cleaning on, I want to say it's basins 1 and 2. So this involves taking the membrane racks, actually putting clean water in there, saturating with chlorine and letting it, aerate for a while. So we did that, and we got much better transmembrane pressures subsequent to that. So we had been concerned about the performance of those membrane racks. We anticipated finding some significant sediment in the bottom. Turned out not to be the case. We were very pleasantly surprised that there was really virtually no grit buildup in the bottom of our aeration basins, probably attributable to that fine screen where, it's taking out all of the grit, pretty much. As such, when we issued our bond, we put in some wastewater improvements, some water improvements for the interconnecting water line. In that budget, there's a $200,000 item, which TCEQ signed off on, for foam control. So a key part of the foam control in this case was draining the basin, using this pump to reseed it, and to get it back up and running with what we have there. So we're recommending that as a part of our foam control project, that we go ahead and buy this pump. We think, what are we paying per week to rent that pump?
Oh, so we rented it for somewhere around maybe like a week and a half, and I want to say it was somewhere around like $3,800.
Something like that was what was in the budget, or what was in the
Yeah.
statement.
So it'll quickly pay for itself by not renting it. It's I know we've seen it work now, both in this capacity and in fact, when they were reinstalling the pumps for the Lake A and Lake B that go
Yes.
to the golf course, we had to drain that diversion structure so that we could get in there and install the pump heads. They used the same pump for that purpose, and we were able to, the contractor was able to drain the structure and make it usable. So it'll be usable for more than just foam control, but a key part of the foam control process.
I have a quick question. I have a quick question before we go on. This nocardia that shows up is gonna show up twice a year?
It's there all the time, so.
Okay, but it
yeah.
blossoms or flourishes.
Well, what we think of is we have a thriving and diverse bacteria population, and we're feeding them air and food. You can think about it like in terms of population dynamics. The conditions just get right where these nocardia blossom and they become a bigger percentage of the overall population for a short period of time. We also changed during that process what's called the mixed liquor suspended solids concentration. So it's the target that you're trying to hit for the number of bugs, if you will, the biomass in the system. We had been running up around 11 to 13. They suggested, well, you could consider bringing it back to, say, 9,000. This is parts per million of suspended solids, which is really what they call the food to mass ratio in the process. So we made an adjustment there, and it may be that becomes an experiential thing. Every year we get to that springtime period, we're just going to change our target concentration operationally and say, and then when we put the spray injectors in, that will help, and then hopefully.
So the standard, I'm trying to get the process tied in with the nocardia. The answer this time was to drain and clean.
Yeah, we got to.
And we had it in 2 basins.
We ended up doing, we drained and cleaned more than 2, did we not? I thought we went into, is it 5 or 6?
Yeah, so we did it to 1 and 2 and also 5.
Okay.
So, just to elaborate that on a little more, we have been asking, Kubota's been on site 2 or 3 times, and we've been asking them for help with our brand new technology that nobody knows a lot about. Unfortunately, Kubota is not giving us a lot of help, but we have made some very good just operational changes. We've lowered our air quite a bit and everything. I mean, we actually have air daylighting on top of the membranes that we've never had before, just by making operational changes, still checking our DOs and everything. So we basically just took the plant by our own hands and said, all right, guys, nobody's going to help us. We're going to do this ourselves, and we're just going to have to do it by trial and error and see what works. And that's what we've been doing, and we've been pretty successful so far. I mean, we've still got to make some fine-tuning changes, but
Okay.
really proud of everybody over there.
Are we still running a lot of the plant manually? I mean, there was some discussion about automatic systems that weren't working quite right, and the guys were running it out there manually. Is that an issue still to be resolved? I know
It
that's
is-
not this item, so,
It's not this item, but in fact, there is ongoing discussion about that. So we will be talking about it some more. There's, one of the problems was related to some valves that are on the effluent piping. So this is out,
okay, but I don't want to get
output
deep
side.
into it.
yeah.
Yeah.
So we'll be bringing that back anyway, because
Okay,
it's,
yeah.
there's gonna be a proposed solution between Kubota, our engineer. They want to split the cost by thirds.
My counselor says I'm off agenda. Okay,
The only other thing I would add is, so we've got the 46,909.87. That's plenty enough for the pump and everything. We are going to make some hose changes. The guys over there would like maybe some shorter hoses than what were initially quoted for this price. So if we do it not to exceed, I would just maybe like a little bit more just to make some hose changes.
How much you talking for that?
Maybe, I'm sure it's not going to be that much, maybe another $1,000.
I noted there's a difference in the different quotes. The one from United doesn't say anything about being trailer mounted. The others are trailer mounted.
It's
and
trailer
There's
mounted.
nothing in here that says,
I came in and did some link work, brought some links in, and they gave them to the superintendent, and he's taken a look at them, because I was concerned about gallon per hour, what type of diesel engines,
yeah,
guarantees and warranties, so I think he's probably capable of talking to that.
This is trailer mounted. This is just like the pump that we initially rented from them. That's what this quote's off of, and it's a trailer mounted. It's got the enclosure to hold down sound control.
okay. I was gonna say, it just doesn't have the detail the other bids have
Yeah,
as far as the horsepower and being trailer mounted and that stuff.
It is a
pretty-
40 horsepower.
do you know the manufacturer on the engine? You can talk to me about the guarantee, because I was, or the warranty, because I was interested in that.
But the Isuzu engine?
No, it's a. I'm gonna have to find it. I don't even remember. Somebody else can.
It's not necessarily a brand name,
I
but
think
it's
it's this
come out
one,
of the
Mike, you
warranty.
sent me.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I
Yeah.
mean,
Dudes, whatever that
I
is.
think that's the warranty page for.
Okay. It's
it's-
got, well, I don't know which one, oh, that's a gas engine. I
No.
don't know which engine we've got. Operating hours are unlimited. Got the 12 months, warranty period, 12 months, unlimited, all components. 24 months, and I've got a list of engines with various hour ranges from 2,000 to 5,000 hours, all components of the engine. And then at 36 months, once again, a listing of numerous engines. Don't know which one it is. Some of those engines reach as high as 7,500 hours. The others are a range up. And that covers, at that point, 36 months, main engine components, crankcase, crankshaft, camshaft, connecting rods, cylinder head casting.
So did you read, Bill, that was a gas engine?
No, this is,
Okay.
this is a
These are all
diesel,
diesel.
correct.
That's what I thought, but I thought you just said gas.
Yeah, but
Okay.
in this warranty page, and I can pass it,
Oh,
I'll pass
okay.
it down.
Okay.
in the fine print, it talks about the various items.
Okay.
You were talking, Mike, I believe, about stainless steel parts in the turbine, or?
Yeah, so on the Thompson pump, it has a stress-proof steel is what they call it. On the United Rentals, they actually have a stainless steel shaft. And on the Thompson pump, it'll go up to 2120 gallons per minute, and the United Rentals will go up to 3,700 gallons a minute. So it's a little beefier. It's actually a Pioneer pump.
Okay.
So it's a little beefier pump than what Thompson was
Okay.
offering.
Are we going to be able to maintain this, or is it going to have to be
We will
maintained
maintain
external?
it in-house,
We're going to maintain it in-house?
yes.
We had a discussion on the hoses, the suction hoses. Due to my experience in the oil patch with suction hoses, I can tell you that they're extremely heavy. You pick them up, they take you out if you lose control of them, put you on the ground pretty quick. And so I think, we were talking about 20-footers, and I told him the ones that we handled were 10, but ours may have been heavier. But, so,
Yeah,
the hose mount on here isn't that much more. I mean, the total hose amount on the bid was, one is 600 and one is 960.
Yeah, so I don't think the 600 is going to change. I think the 960 is probably going to change just because we're going to make those. So I had 620s, or let's see, two 6-inch by 20-foot, 40-foot. So instead of 2 of those, we're going to go to 4. So I'm sure, a couple
Okay.
more connections on each end there.
All right. I probably had 1,000 and you'll be within it, correct?
I would think so.
As long as it's on a trailer and that stuff, I mean,
It's a trailer and I think it's lighted too.
yeah, like I said, there's nothing there that says horsepower or anything else, so I don't.
Chair's open for motion.
Oh,
Okay, I'm working on it. Give me 1 second, I'm there. So I move to approve authorization of a 6-inch pump and accessory hoses, first step in the phone control system. Project contemplated in the bond issuance to United Rentals, not to exceed $48,000, which is the 46,900 plus 1,000.
I have a motion, I have a second.
I'll second.
Motion by Director Flynn, second by Director Chapman. Any further discussion? No further discussion. All in favor, please signify by raising your hand. Opposed, same sign. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you. Item 7, consider and take appropriate action regarding emergency services agreement with Blackman Mooring Company. General Manager Carmen.
Thank you. This item really arises from an incident we had where we had a failure of a main, and it put some floodwaters into one of our residents' homes. The firm that we asked to come help us with the initial, what I'm going to call triage, sopping up the mud and what have you, was Blackman Mooring. I've had a long experience working with these folks. Now, we don't have a contract with them per se, and this is probably more in the ballpark of a memorandum of understanding. It's a non-binding agreement, but it gives us standing in terms of, if, for example, there was an emergency like a really heavy rainstorm that, put some sewage in multiple homes in a regional area, or, you could see it happening over many adjacent towns like ourselves and South Lake, and if you have this agreement in place, you get priority status with respect to the folks from Blackman Mooring coming out to give you a help in your community. So we were just looking to have y'all give us this tool. I don't anticipate, what I thought we learned in that process was that if the floodwater comes from outside of a house, that the homeowner's insurance will not take care of it. If it comes from within the house, which is the most likely source of a problem from us, it's going to happen when we're out cleaning sewers, and sometimes you get little backup into someone's home. This would be just for the triage effort, trying to get the initial muck cleaned out. You know, I think that's a customer service capability, and we talked about it, it's almost a year ago now, and I had a general sense that the board was open to that idea, where we're not going to take responsibility for, you know, any structural damage that would be the charge of the insurance company, but certainly to help our residents who are negatively affected by a sewer backup, just to get the basic triage cleaned up. That would be what we'd bring these guys in for.
So, Mr. Carmen, I have a couple questions. Is there any cost to this?
No, this is a MOU. Of course, if we call them out, there's a cost.
Obviously, but there's no cost to the agreement itself. It's not an open PO or anything like that. It's just okay.
It gives us standing and a relationship with them. I'm aware that, you know, there's a very large standing contract amount or budget amount at Fort Worth where, you know, they use the service on a regular basis. They have them come in and do all their
They use Blackman Moore?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. That's where I ran into them. It's my understanding that Trophy Club Municipal Utility District used them once, maybe 5-6 years ago in a sewer backup incident, and you know, so they knew who we were, but there was no ongoing contract. That was just a one-off effort.
Further discussion? Motion?
I make a motion regarding the emergency services agreement with Blackmon Mooring Company to approve it at zero cost to us.
A motion by Director Chapman,
I'll second.
second by Director Castonaway. Any further discussion? All in favor, signify by raising your hand. Opposed, same sign. Motion passes unanimously. Item 8, consider and take appropriate action to approve resolution number 2019-0520B, adopting a water conservation plan. Mr. General Manager,
Thank you.
it's your evening.
I should probably let you have the lead on this one. Lori has taken on the task of updating this plan for us, and it's something that we have to do every 5 years. Is that the cycle? So we have to do it every 5 years and submit it back to the state. We've updated it with relatively current information, what we have available to us, and are bringing it forward for approval from the board. I think we have to submit this to TCEQ, that's my understanding, and maybe the Texas Water Development Board. I know that Bill had he caught some edits that needed to be made, and I believe at your dais you have an updated version relative to the one that was in the board packet. So some of those corrections have been made, and we would be seeking approval of the amended package that's at your desk.
If for the board, I don't recall, I could pull up I came in this morning after I'd looked through the package this weekend and found some things in the document that raised some questions. And for example, one of the questions it raised is there is a page that talks about our water loss. A spot in it that says the water loss was 22% for a year. They're all included in the packet. Okay, first of all, you've got the basic water conservation plan, but this utility profile gets included with this plan as an appendix, as well as the drought contingency and emergency water management plan that we passed last time. Those all get included with this document as appendices, as well as there's a cover letter here that also goes in. So all three of these units go together, and they're carried together in this item in the agenda. Okay, that's the source of them. And you can see the red line, the areas that were redlined are changes, I think, that were made. We did have a, if you go to the utility profile for water, retail water supplier packet, made some changes in the very, I think it's gonna show up red at the very end of it, an addition there. What we found was, generally you're talking retail here, and we have wholesale with the town. So on the water side, it's very easy to separate the retail, because we've got gauges, meters, and we meter it out. On the wastewater side, we don't meter it. So the numbers that you would see on the next to last page here in the utility profile for water users, this large block of numbers says treated gallons of, or total gallons of treated water here. That's both retail and wholesale,
It all comes out at once.
because it all comes into once. So when I saw this discussion, and up above that, it talks about municipal unmetered connections. It says 3,066. Well, in my mind, I know I have 4,700 total. So that piece of information leads to a misinterpretation that those 3,066 unmetered connections are producing all of that wastewater for treatment. So discussed a couple ways of doing it and decided that the answer to the dilemma was to go over to the last page and put what you see in red there in the document, which is basically the total number of gallons treated wastewater includes wholesale customer Trophy Club Public Improvement District, which has 1,444 connections for a total of 4,510 municipal unmetered connections and an overall total of 4,715. So now you have a document that tells you what you've got. There was also, in the water conservation plan, one of the things that we had was a carryover. Let's see if it's, I think it comes out of retail supplier too. Water loss. Water loss turns out to be confusing. What in my mind would have been very clean, when somebody says water loss, well, that's water that's gone out someplace that you don't know about it. Discussions with the superintendent, operations manager, excuse me, I find out that definitions differ for water loss, and that, if I understand correctly, we know we run water out when we flush the fire hydrants, and we have a good idea how much that is. We can't take it off, because even though we know it, it's considered water loss. We drain down an elevated tank, and then when we get to the bottom, we let the rest of it down on the bottom, because we can't let it go below so level. We know how much we put out on the ground. It's a water loss. We know where it went, but we can't take it off of this document. We have to count it. So what we wound up with is in here. I was trying to find the one where it said, let me count back from the bottom again.
What
One,
page are
two,
you on? I think they're numbered. What
are they
page?
numbered?
Yes.
I'm on Appendix A of this
He's up back on the,
utility profile
Yeah.
document. I'm on Appendix A.
Gotcha.
Okay, so you see at the very bottom there, what Kelly get there, you got it? It says water loss as a percentage is 22.10%. It's like, I don't know, fourth page up from the bottom. 1, 2, 3, 4, yeah, 4 pages up from the bottom.
118 of the packet,
What
Oh,
page?
I don't have.
118 of the packet.
In the packet, 118,
that?
but it's the fourth up from the bottom. Yeah. Oh, you took them apart? There you go.
Seasonal water use.
I'm looking at E, water loss.
Yeah, got it.
Yeah.
Find it, Steve?
Yeah.
Okay, So as I was going through the packet, I looked at this and went, whoa, 97744, 22%? This has got to be a mistake. And so I went into the packet, looked at the the water loss in the packet, which turns out to be my fiscal year, and went, it's 11%. We've got an error here. I need to bring it in and have the staff take a look at it. Well, it turns out this isn't fiscal year. This is calendar year. So you just want to throw your hands up. So then over in, okay, so we got that, figured that one out, and I kid you not, you would think that that would be a very simple, easy item to get. Lori ran off the document on how you determine that 22%, and it is 4 pages anyway, maybe 5 pages of fill in the blank and make a calculation. Yeah, and I just took it and laid it back down and said, I'll buy the 22%. So, having done that, then back over, I think it's in the main water conservation plan, there was a point where we said, our loss is 8%, and the AWWA amount is 10%. Okay, so now in that packet on page 7, rolling to page 8. Okay?
So we changed it to 9.12?
Yeah, which is, changed it to 9.12, which is the 5-year average, including that 22%.
Okay.
Okay,
So it's,
so we still within, I didn't go chase the Waterworks recommended, I didn't go try to find the source for that 10%, but we're within it. So now we've reported accurately what we've got, and we've said in this document, 9.12%. So it's all good. And I also made the suggestion, and it was put in, that the original sentence in here didn't indicate that was a 5-year average. And so I added the 5-year average in it. So when you pick up the document and read it, it's, in my mind, it's clean. There were some other minor things in there, but that would be the major stuff.
Bill, this is a minor comment, but with respect to the change made to the last page of the utility profile.
Okay.
Technically, the wholesale customer would be the town of Trophy Club, it's just that for the area, but,
Not, yeah, you're right,
so our contract is.
with the town,
The town, not the
okay?
bid.
So you want to scratch that PID part?
I think I would say includes wholesale customer, town of Trophy Club.
Okay. So, would somebody like me to make a motion? Any further, let's do any further discussion first.
Go ahead.
Okay. I move to approve let me get the right item. I move to approve Resolution 2019-05-20B, adopting the Water Conservation Plan as presented at the dais and amended on the Appendix A page, Item C, wastewater, Appendix A of the utility profile for retail water supplier. Appendix A, Item C, wastewater system data component, to read, the total number of gallons of treated wastewater includes wholesale customer Town of Trophy Club, which has 1,444 connections for a total of 4,510 municipal unmetered connections and an overall total of 4,6 715 connections.
I'll second that.
I have a motion by Vice President Rose, a second by Secretary Treasurer Flynn. Further discussion? All in favor, please signify by raising your hand. Opposed, same sign. Motion passes unanimously. And that was working me way too hard.
Can I just add a post-motion comment?
Sure.
I had an exchange of emails with a lady at a company called Friesen Nichols. They write the plan for Region C of the Texas Water Development Board's planning structure. A little over a year ago, she had written to me as the chief planner and asked the following question. Now, you have these wells. There's several documents from early bond issues, the state water plan, that include the notion that we're not going to be using our wells after, I want to say it was 2022. And she asked if that was still the plan, and I told her, based on my discussions with the staff and with the members of the board, that that was probably not still the plan, that we would continue to use our wells until we ran into a major water quality problem. We had to re-drill them and put them deeper, some other sort of malfunction. But I just wanted to bring that up. So they're aware of that. They're getting started on the next 5-year planning cycle. So there'll be a new one of these plans written and published in 2022, I think. So, you know.
Thank you. Okay, that brings us to item 9, discussion and possible action regarding adoption of amended and restated reserve fund policy. And we had the prior item that the president of the board would like us to table that motion.
I move to table motion, number 9 as well, regarding the adoption of the amended restated reserve policy.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion on tabling? No discussion on tabling. All in favor, please signify by raising your hand. All opposed, same sign. Item 9 is tabled unanimously. Item 10, consider and take appropriate action regarding the April 2019 Combined Financials and Variance Report.
Mr. Vice President, I have to, we didn't note at the beginning, but our finance manager is not with us tonight. So as long as we don't have any really complicated questions for the general manager, we'll be okay. Hopefully, if there are any questions about these, that either Steve can answer them, having gone through them, or we'll just have to come back with an answer when Steve gets back in the office. Stephen.
Yeah, first one you said Steve, then you said Steven, so I want to be clear about who we're relying on
No,
here.
I think our secretary treasurer can answer most of your questions.
I did.
I have a hard question for him.
Okay, give me the hard one first.
The hard one first is on page,
You're on the, which report? You're not on the variance report, you're on
I'm
the.
going to go, no, I'm down on page 154, which is talking on page 1, go to 154 of the packet. And I've probably seen this before, but for this time it caught my attention.
Okay, I'm there.
It says down there, assigned fund balance / fire department. That's in the O&M general fund. We have a fire department fund balance sheet up higher. Should that be in the fire department fund balance, or is that correctly located under O&M general? Want to pass?
I do, I can't answer that,
Okay.
Bill.
That was, I looked at it and said, wait a minute, I've seen this before, and I don't understand it. But
I will say that this has been a big chunk of the discussion because it relates to the operation agreement we have with the town for the operation of the fire department. So as we speak, the agreement calls out a true up at the end of
Yes.
the year. So we project balances and so on. If we have, we project our tax revenues that go to fund this, and we project our expenses as a part of, that annual meeting we have with their board, and, we set
Yeah.
the budget for the fire department. Well, if revenues exceed expenditures and there's a surplus, right now, it's just kind of rolling into the town's general fund.
Okay,
Realistically, that should come back as a part of the true-up and end up in our reserve, because we can't really take stuff out of our reserve and spend it on something else. So we had made some good progress with the town staff on that, and are hoping to get that resolved and have it available for when we have a joint meeting with the town council to approve the fire budget. I believe that's in July, is
Okay.
when we do that. But if they want to have any changes in service level, for example, that might add staff, or, other equipment purchases, then we'd like to have that, what is our reserve balance, because that would be a part of budgeting it for the next year.
I have a question, and I don't think you're gonna be able to hit this one either. I have a question on page 155 of the packet. And this is on affluent charges. And this is from the club, I believe. Yeah, TCC affluent charges, where they're buying affluent from us. We're at 2.5%. That seems awful low.
It's been a wet,
I know it's been really
It's
wet.
been raining and they haven't asked for water yet.
So we've not been feeding them water?
Nope.
Oh,
Just
wow.
a little bit so far this year. I think 2 days last month, 2 or 3 days they asked for water, but other than that, the golf course has not called and asked us for effluent yet.
Keeps raining, filling up their ponds.
Yep.
Okay. I just looked at that and went, wow, 2.5%. That's even lower than what I'd anticipated. Okay,
Bill, I do have one point I want to make. If you go to the budget variance report,
what page is that? Tell
that
me.
is on page 238.
Okay,
If you recall, last month I had a little bit of a concern regarding the top line revenue, the water revenue number. Now, we know it's been wet, back to the same discussion. I believe it was at 29% last month. It's at 32.76 from a revenue standpoint. We're approaching 60% of the way through the fiscal year. I know not all is, equal here because you're coming into the dry season, but I still have a concern that's, at some point in time, it got to get awful dry, awful quick, and a lot of people using water, or, we're never going to hit that number.
Yeah.
So I guess my question is, at what time do we raise the red flag and say, you know what, this 6.6 is, we're not going to get there?
Okay, that goes a little bit hand in hand. When we're not selling water, we're not buying water either.
yeah, that's the good side.
So we don't have that big expenditure coming in.
Yeah,
from
that's a
Fort
little, if I
Worth.
look at that on the expense side, it's about the same percentage, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's not exactly the same because
No.
obviously we're,
Yeah.
you know,
What
upcharging
we
a little
lose,
bit
our
there, but-
loss is the delta.
Yeah,
Our
I understand.
The loss is our markup. That's
So
what,
if we,
Yeah.
sharpened the pencil and look at both of those and said, what, as of, 7 months in, I think we're okay. And this is probably a Stephen question, but
I did this last year.
Mhm.
And what I did is I went into the budget document with all of the small little letters, and I got it to where you could blow it up, and I built a graph. And when you're on, and with that graph, it shows your water use isn't linear.
no,
I
understand.
did. So my graph, by using the months in that projection, went like that. So then I could then plot where I was at in relation to, and you could get a
And,
feeling.
and
that-
I asked that very question of Stephen, and he thought we should be closer to 40% based on history. But again, we're not buying as much. But
Yeah.
I don't want us to get, a couple months more down the road, and all of a sudden,
Yeah, there's
we
a
got a
delta.
real problem.
Yeah, the delta that we have to be concerned with is the markup.
Mhm.
And that comes from the rate stabilization fund.
Mm-hmm.
So let's not get too concerned about that yet, just because, when we're not selling water, we're not buying water either, and that's the biggest water expense we have in that line item.
Fair enough.
The other thing is I happened to catch quick little blurb on the news the other day. Somebody was doing, I don't know whether it's Farmer's Almanac or somebody's forecast for the summer. We are supposed to be cooler and wetter
For the summer.
for the summer.
It's already been cooler and wetter.
It wasn't a groundhog from the state of Pennsylvania, was it?
Huh? Yeah,
Okay, no.
Punxsutawney Bill
Yeah,
instead of Phil.
that's,
But usually, I mean, we go over this every year. I mean, usually if our revenue's down, our expenditures are
yeah.
way down.
And it's tracking. I mean, the revenue and expenditures, when you watch that, when you look at those items in the green and white pages, yeah, it's down, but it looks to me like it may be down down because of staff too.
We actually have a new staff member on the water side.
Okay, let's save that for the
Sell
report.
what we don't buy,
Okay.
so.
I just wanted to bring my fiscally responsible,
Do we have a motion?
we sure do.
we have any
I-
questions?
I can't question my own motion.
Okay, no, but anybody else, discussion? Okay,
I move to approve the April 2019 combined financials and variance report. A, combined financials, B, combined variance.
I'll second.
okay. Motion by Secretary Treasurer Flynn, seconded by Director Tepman. All in favor signify by raising your hand. Opposed, same sign. Passes unanimously. All right, that takes us, let me get back to my original page here so I can do this. That takes us to item 11, reports and updates. General Manager monthly reports and updates. The GM on deck.
Thank you. I'm happy to take this one. I've got maybe an update. So the first item in the general manager report inside of your packet shows a valve that we replaced on, we started on the night of the 3rd of May, and the crew finished up there about 5:30 the 4th of May, which was a Saturday morning. Also the day that Director Chapman came and took a tour of the wastewater plant, so we got to drive by this particular leak. It was a bit of a challenge because, you know, here you can see the trees and the roots are grown right around that valve. You know, there was some conflict that night. I spent some time talking with the homeowner today, about 45 minutes worth. We went through all the details, and she expressed some concern that some of the crew members there had said some things in Spanish that were disparaging about her. But she understood Spanish, and so she wanted to express those concerns to me, and I listened to her. I apologized on behalf of the district if there was anything untoward said. Nonetheless, the tree was left up on the 3rd of May because she was really hoping that, in fact, it would make it. The tree blew over Saturday afternoon and crushed her mailbox.
Oh,
So,
It's our fault.
so Mike had sent me pictures. I guess Parks and Rec came and cut the tree apart. So it's been taken apart, and I drove by this afternoon when I was going to look at another tree that has toppled over this last weekend, also potentially related to one of our projects on Indian Creek. But nonetheless, the tree's now been removed from this lady's house. She wasn't able to come to our meeting tonight. I offered her the opportunity. I think she's going to be requesting some help in the replacement of her mailbox. I told her that really it's not us. You know, we appreciate that, but I couldn't do it myself. It's the tree that was in the easement. We left it up because over staff concerns that it was a safety hazard. I'm glad nobody was hurt when the tree fell, but when it did fall, it crushed her brick mailbox, and there'll certainly be an expense there. We went to the effort of cleaning up the tree in her front yard. I thought the guys were doing a great job when I went by. But this is just a situation where, you know, I don't know if there was a leak in the bonnet of that valve, maybe a small one that went back, but all the tree roots look to be right there at the valve. And, you know, so what do you call that? It's a push me, pull you problem, right? The tree is getting a little bit of water from a leak in that valve, And then we went out to exercise it in advance of some regularly scheduled valve replacements in that area. It sounds like the valve broke, the stem broke on the, and it turned into an emergency. So we had water gushing out on the street. I know when Director Chapman and I drove by, there was still a lot of mud out in the street from that. And I know we went by and cleaned that up sometime after the fact, but it was a mess. And it took the crew, which was in fact a contractor. When we do projects this big, we hire a contractor. So, but it wasn't solely them. We had our folks on site with the Vector truck. They were there all night, and we could tell they had fresh mud on the truck. When we got in there about 5 hours later, it was still wet. So, so our crew was there, but the contractor crew was there as well. They worked all night long in a rainstorm and pounded it out. So, at least the water emergency was corrected.
If I could, while you still had to picture the tree up, because the tree blowing over reminds me of another tree, and I'll broaden this just a little bit, that is a threat to an aerial sewer line.
Yep.
Is it still standing?
It is.
It is.
Good.
I'll let you go cut that one down, Bill.
Okay, that's all. I just wanted to make sure.
Along the lines of, the rest of it you can read in your report, but if you go just down to the next item, the second leak I reported on, we get to see one kind of unaccounted for water loss. So in this case, we had a car, the report that I heard was it was an inattentive driver. It was early in the morning. There's no evidence of drinking or anything, but maybe some distraction. Drifted off the road on Solana Boulevard, so this is in Westlake. Hit the fire hydrant hard enough that it broke the tap at the bottom.
Yeah, bro.
Usually there's a shear plate that would come off, but that didn't happen in this case. So you can see a lot of water on the ground. We have no way of measuring how much water spilled out during this event. But it's one of the types of spills where you can have a water loss that you're just not sure how much it is. It goes in that number somewhere.
So
Just
the
on-
repair to this, the repair, is there any responsibility on behalf of the driver?
Yeah, Mike recommended and I approved that we just hire a contractor for this so that as it went to the driver's insurance company for the replacement, that it would be clean. We wouldn't be estimating staff hours, that kind of stuff. We had our contractor do it. We'll have a bill for it and submit that to his insurance company.
It's too bad we
Something
can't
water loss
guesstimate and charge them for the water loss.
Yes. So just a water loss looking on SCADA, it's gonna be somewhere, this leak was somewhere around about 120 to 140,000 gallons.
You pulled it off a SCADA?
Yeah. So I could tell what I was hitting on SCADA then, and you can tell immediately when that hit, cause I had a second pump come on.
Interesting.
You can see it.
Like I said, charge him for it.
Yeah, I mean, if
can
we,
estimate
Going
it.
back
we
on
can
his
validate it.
insurance, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
We're putting it in there. In fact, I think Lori's still waiting for that from,
Any other items for the general manager? I have a question on the wastewater treatment plant.
Okay.
I'm down on page 243 now. Looking at the 240, yeah, it's up in there, up in that chart. 8 April, this one. There. I see on April 2019 results, a test in on the 8th of April, influent and effluent, and we caught a 55.6% as opposed to the standard 98s.
the
Is
reason
it a
for that
testing
is.
error or what?
Yeah, so these are samples that are sent to a third-party lab that we use. These are not done in-house. I guess whenever they pulled that sample, if you look at the influent part of that, we just must not have had hardly any ammonia coming in at that time.
That's what made me think it may have been an error.
No, that's right from our lab, so that's
Okay.
a lab result.
So there was no ammonia coming in.
I guess not at that time.
strange, yeah. And when you're trying to get to zero, it's pretty tough to do. Because the .67, if you go up above where it says 1.7, well, yeah. I see,
You
okay.
gotta look at the influent there. The influent was 47.5 at that
Exactly,
point,
but
yeah.
you see where I'm at.
I even looked at that too. I mean, in that 1.7, that was pretty high for that day, so, I don't know. I mean, these are all, so an influent sample is a grab sample from the influent. It's like, okay, what do we have coming in? Let's measure that effluent, you know? We have an
Yep.
automated sampler that samples every hour.
Could we've had a lot of water, just straight water, like inflow issue on the influent that thinned it down so much?
I mean, it's
not-
possible.
I just trying to get
So
some,
certainly a big rainstorm could be a part of an issue. We could be recycling some water from a basin back to the head of the plant at that period of time. That's a possibility.
Press.
okay,
Because I know we used basin number 4 as a catch basin and then recycled that water. So something like that could have happened as well. It was primarily rainwater for a while.
Yeah.
yeah, okay. That's all I've got. Anything else?
Yeah, I've got
Mark?
on that wastewater treatment plant, we had an inspection on May 10th from the independent.
So that one-
Oh,
Our independent contractor special inspection,
Yes.
did it happen on May
I'm
10th?
gonna talk about that next.
We're going to have a brief executive session to
Oh, okay.
talk about that and one other item. I have a little bit of an update, but I can tell you that they have gone to the plant and done their inspection. So we don't have the results yet, but they were out there a week ago Friday.
They're also gonna look at that, weatherproofing that motor.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
So the 3 questions that we asked them to opine on were, you know, the relative success or deficiency of the mechanical joints between the I-beams, the foundation constructions, and then whether or not it's actually designed for outdoor use. And there'll be a lot of factors in that consideration.
Was any of that, PVC that we discussed that's exposed to the sun, it's gonna deteriorate over time? Are they gonna look at that at all, or is that?
No, they
that's-
would look at that. That would be a design issue primarily.
And then that's enough. I'm done.
Okay.
The only other thing I have to add is the report today was both cranes at the wastewater plant are operational. Now, on phase 2, they have not done their load tests or anything like that, so we would not operate that until, you know, we have all the check boxes checked. But the crane over phase 1, over MBR 1 and 2, is back operational today.
Okay, because it wasn't.
It wasn't.
Anything else? Okay, so that'll wrap up item 11. Item 12, executive session, and I understand we're going that way, so executive session, pursuant to section 551.071 of the Texas Open Meetings Act, the board may consult with its attorney in executive session on a matter in which the duty of the attorney to the governmental body under the disciplinary rules of professional conduct of the State Bar of Texas clearly conflicts with the Open Meetings Act, or to seek advice of counsel on legal matters involving pending or contemplated litigation or settlement offers. A, contractor breach, performance and payment issues related to district's contract with Weber Cadagua Partners for construction of the wastewater treatment plant improvements, and B, Trophy Club Municipal District Number 1 versus Acadia Services LLC in the District Court of Tarrant County, 141st Judicial District, cause number 141, 299, 93, 51-18. And 13, pursuant to section 551.072 of the Texas Open Meetings Act, the board may deliberate the purchase, exchange, lease, or value of real property if deliberation in an open meeting would have a detrimental effect on the position of the governmental body in negotiations with a third person. Item A, sale or exchange of district real property located at 100 Municipal Drive and 1 6,501 Junction Way. B, purchase of easements required for construction and operation of water transmission line improvements from district pump station to elevated water tank located on T.W. King Road. The board is going to enter executive session at 7:50 p.m. Take a 10-minute break prior to exec. The time is 8:31 and we return from executive session and we are back in regular session. Item 14, consider and take appropriate action on matters deliberated in executive session. We have no action to be taken. Item 15, items for future agendas. Board.
Well, certainly those two items that we tabled today we'll bring back up in June, correct?
I would think yes. Anything other than that? Nope. Set future meeting dates. Regular board meeting Monday, June 17th, 2019 at 6:30 p.m. Comments? I think we have a water board meeting. Is that spring meeting, summer meeting in June? I gotta look that up. Anyway, I'll do that. Okay. That's everything that I have on the agenda. If no one else has anything, board seats open for a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second?
Second.
Okay, have a motion, a second to adjourn. All in favor, signify by raising your hand. Opposed? No opposed, thank you. We stand adjourned at 8:33 p.m.